Alright, we're going to talk about this. Hello everyone, TVR, Xorro. Last week I asked you guys, which artist would you like to see appear on Monstercat that hasn't released with them yet? Best answers make it in the video, and here we go. Out of the most recent up-and-coming EDM artists, I'd say Knock 2, his Room 202 EP, and Dash Star are really catchy, and I think it would be a great addition to the currently slightly boring house lineup. As someone who has not heard Knock 2 stuff yet, I say why not, you know? Seems like everyone likes him. Haven't really heard any negative things. I've heard positive things generally. So yeah, I don't see why not. I'd be interested to peep out some of his music at some point. As a huge dubstep fan, a lot of my dream debuts have happened recently, but I'd love to see Dea, formerly DDD, on the label. Their world-building skills and beautiful atmospheric style are amazing, and I know that they have a Skybrick collab in the works, so it's possible. This is another person I see a lot of people generally like. As a matter of fact, we talked about one of their EPs not that long ago. I do not remember the name of the EP, but I for sure did a video on it. Just based off that EP, I haven't really heard too much outside of that. I don't know. I mean, I would have to listen to more of their current stuff to get like more of a taste of what their rebranding is like, if it's more or less the same. I wish I had more of a bias to it. Unfortunately, the EP that I heard and did the video on, I wasn't like ecstatic about. I thought it was alright. But yeah, I don't know. I guess it's entirely possible. For sure, John Summit. He is revolutionizing techno as we know it, and honestly, he'd fit in with the label a lot. Not to mention his Subtronics back-to-backs, he could be the next Deadmau5 in my opinion. To see him shine on a label like Monstercat would be really cool. I'm gonna be straight up with you right now. I've never heard of this person. Or maybe I have, and it's part of like some like compilation that I might have heard and maybe did a video on, and I just don't remember it. If I have heard their music, and I don't remember what it sounds like, that's not a good sign. I mean, if you're saying what you're saying is true, then sure, I guess it would be cool. John Summit, I'll have to keep an eye on him. Pony. I was introduced to her by the Play remix package, then progressively I became a fan of her work, and I don't know why the hell she's not on main label. Uncaged needs her. I agree. You know, to be fair, she's already had a couple of releases on Monstercat, technically speaking, but yeah, I'd love to see like an original song from her at one point, maybe a Reaper collab potentially. That would make a really cool Reaper return for Monstercat fans. But yeah, I agree. I think Pony would be an interesting addition, even if it's just like a one-off. It would still be nice for some older fans, especially during like the pandemic when she really put out stuff on the label. Most of the Rushdown roster immediately springs to mind, but an oddbot I've been keeping tabs on is Guy Arthur. Knowing his off-label tracks, his collab with Tokyo Machine Get Up, and his feature on Champa 1, I feel like his Monstercat debut is more of a question of when than a question of if. Sure, some of his music may be more tailored to the NCS style than he's released, like Runaway and Spend It All, but he's definitely got the talent, skill, and everything else in order to have a successful debut. And you know what? Yeah, I agree with this one too. Again, I haven't really heard too much outside of the Tokyo Machine Collab and Champa 1 song, both of which are pretty good. And even for an NCS producer, well, I should say a producer that releases on NCS often, he knows how to make a really clean track. So I agree. I think it's more of a question of when than if. Instead of naming some other already well-established huge artists, I love to see fellow Irie Arts on Monstercat, honestly. Dude's got the creativity, production value, and got that insane productivity. He could keep pumping out bangers by bangers non-stop. Yeah, a little comment on that last point there. I've been noticing this guy been releasing a lot of music lately. Like, I think it's been at least 1 or 2 tracks every week. And I hate to say it, but I have not heard any of it because I've just been so wrapped up in other stuff. But yeah, from the handful of tracks that I have heard, including his track Satellite off of Neoluminum Volume 1, I would love to see this guy Monstercat. I think he's got a pretty creative edge to him, and I think for a debut he would make a really interesting one. Actually though, Everett Maxwell, He killed it on NCS last year and would be a good fit for Monstercat as well. Again, haven't heard any of this guy's stuff yet. I know he was requested on a bunch of the request rankings when that was still kind of active. And from what I've heard from a couple people, he's more of like a Fat Rat protege. So if any of that is true, then yeah, I don't see why he couldn't be on Monstercat, honestly. Inhuman on Monstercat would be insane. Inhuman on Monstercat would be very interesting. Very, very interesting. Honestly, I think it is very unlikely. If he ever did appear on Monstercat, I would have to imagine it would have to be like a remix or something. Or maybe a collab. But probably not his own project. If it was his own project, that would be cool. You know, why not? He's one of the more influential dubstep producers from way back, so yeah, I say at least one song. I mean, come on, it's Code Pandorum, for crying out loud. I'm gonna go with Metahesh. Guy makes some pretty good wave trap and dark ambient stuff, and I feel like his style would bring something semi-new to the table of the label. If by wave trap you're talking about like hard wave, if you're talking about that, I would prefer not, because I'm going to be completely honest, I'm getting pretty tired of that genre, especially like from the likes of Slippy. I know he's very prominent in that genre, and he does it particularly well, but it's just like other people doing it, it just all sounds very samey. Skylar, for example, her most recent EP had some of it, and it just didn't really click with me. The Godland song Crashing off of her brand new EP was also sort of in that same realm, albeit a little more future bassy. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, if he really does, I would be more interested in the dark ambient stuff, I guess. But if by wave trap you're talking about like the stuff Slippy makes, then personally I would not want to hear more of that on Monstercat. And finally, if the Complextro man Temanite can get 2 releases on Monstercat, we gotta have the Warrior of Wubstep, MDK. The Wubby man has dabbled around the area, being on NCS with Chime, and even with Temanite himself, so it would be great for him to get a proper connection release. I also shot up the idea in his DM about maybe properly doing color bass, and he said maybe so. I mean, MDK is a pretty legendary name. Legendary, maybe that's a bit of a strong word, but he's definitely been around for a while, and he's definitely inspired a lot of sort of the video game aesthetic to EDM, I think, alongside like Chime, alongside Temanite, alongside people like Nitrofun even. You know, he's definitely made a name for himself, and I'm kind of surprised he has not even appeared once, not even as like a remix or anything. I'm surprised he hasn't shown up once on Monstercat. I think it's overdue at this point for MDK to get a proper Monstercat debut.